everybody, and welcome back to Granted Gardens. Today is one of my most favorite wintertime videos to shoot, and that is the houseplant tour. When you have a YouTube channel and your main focus is on gardening, sometimes it can be a little hard to come up with original content to do during the winter time. But this has been a long tradition now. This will be my third year of doing houseplant tours, and these videos always do fairly well. So apparently there's still a really big interest in the gardening world to see not only what you grow outside, what you grow inside too. What's kind of neat that I've noticed with my houseplant tours is that I always thought that I had like the same plants every single year, and I'm like, how exciting can that be to just keep showing the same plants every single year? What I have noticed about myself personally though is that very rarely are these videos the same. I tend to get creative with my houseplants. I also tend to, pick up some new ones here and there. So today I'm going to do my best to share with you guys exactly what type of plant these plants are, and then if I can remember the story of where they came from, I like to be able to share the story of where they came from as well. Now mind you, some of these plants I've gotten from things like Free Cycle or just given to me as like small gifts, whether they be cuttings from friends' plants or whatnot. So I may not know the exact type of plant that these are. Bear with me, but I am excited to show you guys my indoor garden, if you will. I'm also going to be trying out my new ring light in this video, which might I add is really, really improving the lighting in this video currently. This is awesome. Love it. And Tyler's joining us for this one as well. So, and he's going to walk you through some of his plants that he's got here as well. He's a lot better at remembering names of plants than I am. Alright, so just kind of a general overview of why I do this. There is actually a point to this. Throughout the year, especially during the summer, a lot of our houseplants get neglected because our focus is on everything going on outside. So during the winter, it gives us an opportunity to kind of go through and evaluate how our houseplants look. Now, I find it the most easy for me to just get them all together right here on the kitchen table and just go through one by one. And so you can kind of see what Tyler was doing, going through making sure that we're cutting off or pruning off any of the dead. If anything needs to be up-potted or repotted, we make sure that we address that, and as well as just check for overall soil health. So this is all of our houseplants, quite literally, right here on the kitchen table. So we're trying to decide how we're going to go about doing this, and I think Tyler's got the best idea. We're just going to kind of like tackle it from one end of the table to the other, and as we review a plant and make sure that it is healthy, we put it back where it belongs. But I did want to address just this one over here because this one is not going to be moved. I've tended to them. I might go through and pick out some dead, but this is one of my ferns. If you followed from last year, I believe it was last year, I had a few ferns in the house, and I had one that I referred to as Big Mama that was in the corner of the living room. And then I had this one, which was not doing too good, I believe. It was like half dead, probably wasn't going to make it through the winter. And then on the flip side, we had Big Mama, which was huge and healthy. So Big Mama ended up dying off, believe it or not. And this one that was like sick and not doing so well, during the summer I moved it outside and it just filled in and turned green and lovely and beautiful. And then we've put it in this corner here where we get a lot of natural light, and it has been doing so well ever since. So I lost quite a few of my ferns, but I do still have this one going. Fun story was this was given to me by a family down the road that their mother had passed away. And they said, please just take it and take care of it, and as long as it's living, I'll be happy. And I just love this plant, and I love that story. Okay, so we're going to start here at this end of the table and move backwards. I'm going to start here with this first one, which I'm super proud of and absolutely in love with. This is a Monstera. This was actually sent to me by one of my really good friends, Megan, from the Walterman Homestead. She shipped this to me, and look at how good it's doing. It's so beautiful. I like to keep this kind of in our bathroom window so it does still get a lot of natural light throughout the day. And then it also, I think, just like the moistness from showers and everything too, helps with my plants that I keep in the bathroom. So this is my Monstera. These are really fun because they have little holes in the leaves. This next one that I'm going to highlight, I also keep in the bathroom. This is, I believe it's a peace lily This plant is pretty old. This plant I actually planted when I was in horticulture in high school. So I don't know the exact dates here. It's been a while. And my mom had it for the longest time. And then when I moved in here and I kind of started getting into plants and wanting some things to decorate the house, she split it off for me and gave me some. So this was, in fact, a plant that I had started, grown from a little tiny baby from when I was in high school in horticulture, and it's doing absolutely beautiful. Again, I keep this in our little bathroom. We have a tiny little window in there, but it seems to just get plenty of natural light there. And does really, really well. Now, the only thing that I usually do with this plant in particular is I like to take a damp cloth and just wipe off the leaves. The leaves tend to get dusty. Now, there's a couple things that you want to take into consideration with dusty leaves. Number one, it's not very appealing. Number two, if you get a lot of dust caked up on the leaves and they're in an area where they already don't get much natural light, that dust is just creating a barrier, making it a little bit harder for them to absorb sunlight. So it's always nice to keep your plant leaves very clean. So here I just have a damp napkin, a damp paper towel actually. I just put water on it, and I'll just go through and just gently wipe the tops of the leaves off to dust them a little bit. You want to make sure you're very careful with them. You want to make sure you're not ripping anything. But just a gentle wipe will get them nice and clean. Some other things that we're also looking for are any kind of dying leaves. So something like this, half of this leaf is dead. The plant itself is not unhealthy. It's just this leaf that's having a hard time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and snip this off, but we wanna make sure when we do snip it off that we cut as close to the base as we can. So I'm gonna get down really deep in here into right where the leaf meets the core of the plant and snip from there. That way we're reducing any kinds of areas for bacteria growth. It also isn't going to have to deal with this stem dying off as well. So once the leaf gets to this point, the plant is going to put a ton more energy into leaves like this to try and recover them, but it's really not necessary. There's obviously plenty of foliage here for the plant to go on and be healthy without just this leaf. So it's best to go ahead and trim off any of the leaves that are dying back like that so that the plant can put its energy into healthier parts of the plant itself. This also gives me an opportunity to evaluate the plant as a whole. What I'm seeing here is that the plant is kind of growing in one direction. That's because the window was on this side. So when I put it back, I definitely want to make sure that I leave this empty side facing the window so that it'll fill out more evenly. We're gonna go next into one of my most favorite plants that we have in the house for no particular reason other than the fact that I just think the concept is cool. And that is one of our many pineapple plants. So we have a video where I show you guys how to grow pineapple plants that look like this from the tops of store-bought pineapples. I'll make sure I link that below. That was a very popular video of ours, so this is just one example. Never downplay the possibility of plants and using kitchen scraps to grow something lovely. Just to follow up from that, this is another one of our pineapple plants that we grew from the top of a pineapple. Now you can tell this one doesn't look nearly as pretty as the other one did. This one is much newer, okay, so it's still developing a strong root system, and the plant will die back during that process. You will see a lot of dead on your plants during the process of it focusing on growing some roots, so don't be afraid of this. So what I do here in these circumstances is I'll trim off the dead. I don't trim off the entire shoot, just the dead part. And this kind of helps me keep track of how quickly it's dying, and if I do need to jump in. Like right now, this is pretty normal death rate, to be honest. So I'll just trim off the tips here. And then in a few days, I'll check on it again. If there's a lot more of the tips that turn dead, then we know that we need to address something. If the rest of it is still green and there's not much dead on it still, like it didn't continue to die after I clipped it, then we can leave it and just keep on rocking and rolling. So I'll show you how I trim this newer pineapple plant. Okay, the trick is just don't be shy. So you're gonna go in and you wanna snip as close as you can to the green part, the next green part of the plant. So if you see this one right here, we're gonna go in and I'm gonna snip just at where the dead part meets the green, and cut that off, and then we just have this green stalk, okay? So I'm gonna go through and do that. Now, if you have some stalks that are dead all the way down, go ahead and cut them off, that's fine. So when I'm done, it looks something like this, pretty well hacked up, but I promise you it is not going to kill your plant. So we're gonna actually stick with the theme of growing indoor plants or house plants from kitchen scraps. And with that, this next one is my avocado tree. So this avocado tree has to be now about 3 years old, maybe older than that. It's fairly tall, but it's still in a pretty small pot. And you can see here at the top, it's happy as can be. We've got new growth. So the idea here, I'm not sure that we'll ever actually see avocados from this tree. We just don't have the season for it. But I do like to make sure that when it's nice and warm outside in the summertime, I will take this out and let him sit out in outside. So not necessarily direct sunlight, kind of filtered sunlight. And he tends to take off a lot in the summer. That's where a lot of this growth has come from. He doesn't tend to get very big in the wintertime, but I can bring him in and he stays alive. And we have this avocado that I also grew from seed from an avocado that we bought from the grocery store. So this one here is just about a year old, so much shorter, much smaller, but very healthy. You can see, like, you don't see a lot of the brown tips on this newer one like you do with the older one. Right here at the top, you can see he's happy. We've got some new growth, some leaves there coming out the top, and this one is also in a bigger pot. So I'm wondering if that has a lot to do with it. Again, I have to make sure that I keep them by a sunny window, but try to keep it as warm as possible and then turn them frequently so that they're getting sun on every side. Okay, so now that I've gone through a few of these with you, we are going to make sure that they're fully tended to, and Tyler's actually going to come in and talk to you guys a little bit about the fertilization process that we undergo here for our indoor plants, and we're going to start moving them back to where they belong.
Okay, so we've got two things. One of which is, well, we have three things. One of which isn't going to be shown in this because it's pretty standard stuff. For some houseplants, we use Miracle-Gro when we have it and need it. But we have Vermacompost tea and water. It's a 50-50 mix in this watering can. It was the last of what we had, so we're going to use that first. This thing is pretty much full, so there's maybe 2.5 gallons in here. This should be more than enough. Usually when we do this though, we don't super water the plants. We actually just give them a pretty good drink of this, and then we'll let them dry over the next 2 days, and then we'll water them if they need it. And then for my succulents, I just use succulent plant food, because succulents do not like high nitrogen. So this is actually only 0.5 nitrogen, 1 potassium, 1 potash.
Okay, so next we're going to go into what I believe are all Pathos or versions of that. I think a lot of these I'm looking to possibly repot. So I've got a few different variations here. The Pathos plant, I believe this was also from Megan. So we've got 2 of them in this little pot, and these ones are doing awesome. You can tell by their color, very rich, very healthy. This one's got some variegated leaves on it, which is really pretty. And then I have this one as well. I don't know if this is a Pathos or not. But again, like the different color on the leaves, so the variegated leaves, I think those are really exciting. Those are a lot of fun. It gives you some variety. I've got a few more. So I've got this one, which also has a little bit of color in the leaves. This one here. So Pathos will tend to vine a bit, like it'll grow over and down. And so sometimes you kind of end up with what looks like an empty pot, even though you have a very healthy plant. So my goal is I'm going to actually transplant in some of these smaller ones into the same bucket with this one so that it's nice and full and it looks pretty. And now at least our pot looks a little bit more full, and it will fill in as they start to grow out. Okay, so now we're moving on to one of my most gifted plants. is the spider plant. So I have this beautiful...
The king of our houseplants.
Yes, the king of our houseplants. I have this beautiful curly spider plant. So they call it the curly spider because the leaves do actually have a little curl to them, so they don't just stick straight up, which I think is really pretty. It's also variegated, so you've got the different color in the leaves. This is a gorgeous plant, and this is the one that we gift most often because we get a ton of spider plant babies on this one in particular, and it just does so well, and it's so beautiful. So we like to trim off the spider plant babies and give them to our friends. So many of my friends that are plant lovers have at least one, if not multiple, spider plant babies from this plant. So this just needs kind of picked out. We've got some dead ones we need to take off just to make sure it's nice and healthy. I have another spider plant here, which this was at one point one of the babies from this plant. So we cut off the ends of the babies and planted it and grew it into this massive spider plant, and I just think this is so beautiful. If you're interested in learning about how you can grow, when I'm saying that I'm cutting these babies off and sharing them with our friends, what that means is we've got all these little balls here. So for example, we've got this, right? So if I wanted to propagate this, if I wanted to grow a new plant from this one, which is called propagation, I would go ahead and I would just snip right there. And then I could put this separate piece into a propagation station and it would root and become a whole new plant. I do hand make some of my propagation stations. I'll make sure that I walk you guys through and show you the ones that I have here in my home, but I've made a variety of different ones, some of them that have a little bit more detail to them, and those are for sale on our website in the link below, the Granite Gardens website, granitegardens.com. So here is an example of my propagation station that I make. I love them because they just hang in the windows, or you can really hang them anywhere, but I just think this is really cute. So this one has 5 different propagation stations, which are these little jars, and then you can just put your plant, after you trim it, you can just set it in there, and after a while it'll start to grow roots like that. Once the roots get fairly long, like that is probably good enough, you can pull it out and put it in soil and it'll turn into a great big plant. So once the plants start to grow roots, that's when I up-pot them. I usually start in something smaller. So this is one of my baby spider plants that I had propagated off of the mama plant that I showed you earlier. And I just put it in a tiny little terracotta pot and put in some soil, and so that will give him the opportunity to grow roots in soil for a bit longer. And then if I want to, I can up-pot it. Now the fun thing about these spider plants that I've noticed as I've been doing this is that if you want them to stay small, you keep them in a small pot. If you want them to get big, you need to put them in a bigger pot. And the more that you up-pot them, the larger these plants tend to get. Last spider plant, I promise. So this is another one of our spider plants. This is a baby that I cut off of mama. It was just much, much bigger than the other ones that I have in our propagation station. So I just kind of put it, I have these cute little old milk jars. So you really don't necessarily need a propagation station per se to get it going. You can just use any kind of available jar with water. The propagation station I just think looks pretty. Alright, so this next one I'm excited to share with everybody. I have a group of friends, my gardening friends, the Friends of Roots and Refuge admin team. We talk a lot and we share a lot of ideas with each other. So the other day we were on there talking about fruit flies and how much of annoyance they can be on a homestead or on a farm, and some ways that we go about trying to get rid of them. And they had shared this idea of these carnivorous plants, am I saying that properly, that help handle fruit flies. Of course, I think a lot of people are really familiar with Venus flytraps. So this one's something different. This is a pitcher plant, which this was very new to me. I knew about Venus flytraps, but this was something different. And so in true Friends of Roots and Refuge admin team style, we all went out and got one. Did it together. This thing here, I believe, is actually called a pitcher, and I'm still learning a lot about these plants, but this is called a pitcher, and essentially what happens is that the bugs will crawl in through the top there, and the plant will break them down and eat them. So I'm excited to hang this in the kitchen. This plant has a job. It was brought onto the homestead for a purpose, and I have every belief that it will do its job and do it lovely. The next one here I got the same time that I got that plant, just because I had to, is an air plant. Now, the reason why I got this was because I have one of those like glass bulbs, and a million years ago I had an air plant in there, and I had no idea how to take care of it, and I wasn't a plant person. I didn't understand the process, and it died. So I feel more confident that I'm capable of keeping this thing alive. All right, next is this guy. I have no idea what this is. A lot of people that come to my house always think that this is a pineapple plant because they know that I love to grow my pineapple plants. This isn't a pineapple plant. I don't know what it is, but this was actually a free cycle plant. So someone was just getting rid of all of their houseplants, and I went and rescued it, and I just think it's really pretty, and it's stupid easy to take care of. This is actually in my office most of the time, and it kind of sits up where I forget about it frequently, and he still does great. This next one here is I just like the concept of how it looks, and it's just pretty, so it bushes out, and I got it in this cute little pot here. Alright, so this one here, this is my snake plant, or I think they call them mother-in-law's tongue, something like that. I like snake plant better. So this is a concoction of many different inherited plants. A couple of these I got for free. One of them I think I paid for. Yeah, I've been struggling with keeping this healthy, and I'm not entirely sure what the biggest problem is. At first glance, it looks like I just really need to add more soil here, which I will be doing. But the biggest problem is that they just fall over. They fall, like, why isn't this standing straight up? Also, so this is kind of what it looks like. And it just looks like they're coming up. So we're going to go ahead and just add quite a bit more dirt. This one here was my Valentine's Day present, I believe, last year from Tyler. This is called a Croton Plant. I got excited about that because number one, the colors, so it gets like really vibrant colors in it. And number two, it's like one of the only plants that I actually remembered what it was called from horticulture in high school. So Mr. Hawthorne, if you're watching, I remember. It's called Croton.
Croton, not crouton.
That's how I remember it, is because it sounds like crouton. So this here is literally like as tall as me. And this is a bamboo plant. And this is a really special bamboo plant to me. Try to bring it up here so you can see it a little better. So if you look here, there it actually kind of does look like bamboo, right? So I actually got this plant many years ago. I would say probably 5 or 6 years ago, from a lady that was moving to Poland, and she was a houseplant lover. I mean, she had so many beautiful houseplants, and she was giving them away to people. And I went there and I had grabbed a couple, and she had said, you know, hey, I have this one plant that I was, fruit fly, that I was trying to decide if I was going to take with me or not. She's like, but I can tell that you have like a passion for plants, and that I feel like it would be a really good home. Would you like to take my bamboo? So apparently she shared this story with me about the concept of bamboo, that you're never actually supposed to buy bamboo for yourself. You're always supposed to be gifted bamboo to make sure you have good juju. You are supposed to gift the bamboo plant, not purchase your own. And so she explained to me she was gifting it to me, and I absolutely love it. I mean, this is the most overgrown bamboo I've ever seen before. Okay, lastly on my list here is this ivy plant. Now, I know it looks a little sad right now, but in the summertime, this thing kicks back in full gear and it does great. It just prefers to be outside. I don't want to risk it over the winter because this is actually a really special ivy plant for me. So this ivy was growing at my grandma and grandpa's house in Tennessee, and my grandfather had passed away. My grandmother no longer lives there. So my very last trip to Tennessee, I dug up just a little piece of their ivy plant that was on their front patio, and brought it home with me. And when I dug it up, I mean, it was tiny. It was like this big. And so I planted in this pot, and I kind of have this really pretty like holder, and then I added the bird cage and the little doves in there. And so this plant is really special to me. I've almost lost this plant a handful of times, but every single summer I put it outside and it comes back in full force. So I have faith, but I do just want to clean this up a little bit. But yeah, I love ivy. I love anything that kind of like travels and vines, like that speaks to my soul.
All right, so now we're down to my stuff. There's not much. This is my Madagascar Palm. It is a cactus. It has leaves that come out of the top. They actually look like they're growing little cactuses out of there. This actually will flower eventually. I don't know if I'll ever get it to that point, but here's hoping. Next up on the succulent list is this little planter. This is Burroughs Tail. This grows long vines like this. Sometimes they can get super duper long and they drape. So I'm hoping they'll drape over the side. I know the name of this, I can't really pronounce it. I know the name of this guy down here. Can't really pronounce that either. But I like this guy because he looks like a tree from like a Dr. Seuss show. We've got this guy. The palm in the middle is called a Sago Palm. You can always tell because they kind of have like this pineapple looking base to them. And the leaves are not soft. They're actually very hard. And then I just have this moss growing in the sides to make it all green and nice. The Bonsai. So I think this is some type of ficus, not 100% sure. You can tell from the cuts in the trunk that this was grown as one thing, then cut off, and then they grafted the smaller branches off of it. The variegated green and white in the front is a nerve plant. And this little guy in the back that kind of looks like a fern sticking straight up, I got him at the plant store too. I'm not sure what it is. It kind of looks like the stuff from the other one, but very upright. So I thought he would look cool in there. And these are just some propagations that we currently have going. These are also Burroughs Tail. You can find a lot of videos on propagating them. Usually when you have a mother plant that has multiple stems, you'll just pick a stem off, trim the bottom, leave them out for a couple days till they scab over, and then you plant it and you're good to go. And then this little guy, apparently both of these came from my mom the last time we were there. I'm not sure what they are and I don't remember getting them. But I'm pretty sure this is either a Christmas cactus or a Thanksgiving cactus. I forget how you can tell the difference. And then this little guy, I have no clue what that is, but we are going to try to root them and keep them going. Possibly some kind of jade plant is what I'm hearing. And that is it for my measly selection of houseplants.
That's a wrap for Houseplant Tour of 2022.
In January. One of the two.
So, as always, we appreciate you guys watching. If you have a favorite houseplant, comment below. What am I missing? What do I have to have? What needs to be added?
A giant palm tree in the house. That's what I want.
Oh, you didn't share the bananas. He was saying, like, should I add the bananas? Do they count as houseplants? Like, they're just in here to overwinter. But yeah, they're houseplants.
They're just renters till spring.
So, as always, thank you guys so much for watching.
And we look forward to sharing more with you soon.